Hey guys, I'm Stock and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is the very exciting cover reveal day for Heir of Two Kingdoms. I have a lot of very fun, exciting information to share with you guys today, including, of course, the cover reveal, some behind the scenes of how I made the cover, release day, pre-order information, and then I'm going to read to you guys the prologue of my second epic fantasy novel. So let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm Stock and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Like all the blood, or if they didn't think there was enough. Time has run out for the Duvaharians. The end of this life is near and the Emperor is preparing his return. Even though I'm absolutely dying to show everybody the cover, and I have been dying to show everybody this cover for literally months now, I want to talk a little bit first about pre-order information and, of course, release day. So the official release day for Heir of Two Kingdoms is March 20th, 2023. Pre-orders for the paperback are currently available on most major retailers like Amazon, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble, and then pre-orders for the ebook is currently available on Kindle on Amazon, and after release date it'll be available on Kindle Unlimited as well, if that's something you're interested in. You'll also be able to pre-order signed paperbacks from dragonbonepublishing.com. All of my signed books are going to be at dragonbonepublishing.com's website from now on. So if you do want signed copies of Child of the Dragon Prophecy, Heir of Two Kingdoms, or A Photo Glove, or if you're interested in any merch that goes with those, that's going to be where you're going to go for those things now. And the link for that is down in the description as well. For those of you who are interested in hardbacks of Child of the Dragon Prophecy 2nd edition or Heir of Two Kingdoms, those are going to be coming very, very soon. I'm going to make a video revealing the Under the Dust cover art for both of those and their release day, which is going to be different than Heir of Two Kingdoms release day and the 2nd edition of Child of the Dragon Prophecy's release day. Those are coming super soon, so if you're holding out for a hardback, don't worry, they are on their way. So, release day is March 20th, 2023, and pre-orders are available internationally as of right now. If you order Heir of Two Kingdoms as a pre-order, I do have a link, obviously, down in the description. And you can go to that link, show proof of purchase, and I will send you some extra merch like bookmarks, stickers, and fun little things like that as a sort of thank you and pre-order incentive, and those are going to be available internationally. Now, without further ado, the cover reveal for Heir of Two Kingdoms. Okay, well, one more ado. Before I show you guys the cover, I have to show you, it's so thick. Like, for comparison, Child of the Dragon Prophecy 2nd edition, Heir of Two Kingdoms. Thick. Alright, here's the cover. Ooh. I am so happy with how this cover turned out. It's very pink, which is very unlike me. But we have Stefania and a dragon that she meets, a shadow dragon. You can see that they're in a desert. The cover does extend onto the spine, just like Child of the Dragon Prophecy 2nd edition cover does, and onto the back as well. I know there's a lot of glare and it's hard to see, but I'm going to show you guys the process of how I made this cover, and then some really detailed images of this cover in all of its glory. I know you guys really enjoyed seeing the process for Child of the Dragon Prophecy's 2nd edition cover, so I'm really hoping you enjoyed seeing Heir of Two Kingdoms' process just as much. I had a blast making it. The front cover was actually a sort of procrastination project when I didn't want to actually be editing on Heir of Two Kingdoms, and I had this crazy idea for the cover. And that was actually long before I even decided to republish Child of the Dragon Prophecy, so by the time that whole whirlwind started happening, I was so thankful to already have the front cover done. But then of course, I still had to do all of the spine art and all of the back art and make it match. So there was still a lot of work that needed to be done, but having that front cover done months in advance was a blessing in disguise, even if it was made because I was procrastinating a little bit. Alrighty, now that you guys have seen the cover, I'm going to read to you the prologue for Heir of Two Kingdoms. Now, if you haven't read Child of the Dragon Prophecy yet, it might be kind of a spoiler. I'm not really sure. Honestly, everything's obviously been spoiled for me so many times. I can't tell if it would be spoiled for anybody else at this point, and I will just rant to anybody that wants to hear it. I don't know how many times I've spoiled things in my books, and it's been bad. Anyways, this could be a spoiler if you haven't read Child of the Dragon Prophecy yet, especially if you don't want to know what's going on between her and Thaddeus. So if you want to continue at your own risk. I'm going to show you guys some of the interior formatting too, of course. So there's an all-new map that I made specifically for this book, and of course the Transfalls map. And the fun dragon headers as well. Alrighty, prologue for Heir of Two Kingdoms, Memories That Elude. It takes place in the Eda stronghold in North Venturnovia, sometime after Stefania left New Fairs. Darkness swirled, silence the only answer to hundreds of questions he wanted answered. If only he had something to hold on to in this abyss, something he could latch onto to draw her to him. A shooting stab of bright red pain pierced the darkness, but he pushed past it, focusing only on the color of the pain, red. A faint vision of a mother, father, friend, and child came into view. It was a family, but not his family. It was her family. Red drew his attention to the child. Red curly hair moved gently by a soft breeze. Bright red eyes staring into his soul, burning his soul. He remembered the first day he laid eyes on her, the perfect Duvaharian. But he had failed her, and himself. He pushed back the pain of that day, refusing to bear it yet again, and reached instead into a different memory. Laughter filled the darkness, and the family came back into focus. The smell of roasting mountain goat filled his mind and made his mouth water. Their conversation, dark, elusive, distant, was barely audible. Some of it was easy to comprehend, like when dragons were mentioned or the setting suns behind them, but some of it wasn't, like when new laws or impending attacks were discussed. It was as if a veil was between him and them, making it all hard to grasp, as if he had the mind of a lesser creature. Gritting his teeth, he forced himself further into the vision. An explosion of pain tore through his mind, but he pressed on until he was surrounded by darkness again. He opened the eyes of the body he'd entered. Everything was much different from his new perspective. His eyes glanced across the patio and into the mountainous room. Distantly, he felt as the body his consciousness was in shifted its wings, a single black feather falling to his feet. The four-winged crow moved forward into the doorway, its keen eyes taking in the scene, though none of the room's occupants seemed to notice its presence. A child with flaming red hair sat in a raised chair at the table, waving her chubby arms as she laughed at something the young man sitting across from her was saying. Stefania. The deep voice of his dragon penetrated the memory and into his mind. Yes, it is her. A hunger welled up inside Thaddeus as he fixated on the little girl. So much raw power was stored in that small body, and here she was, food across her cheeks and gripped tightly between her fingers. And her family. He hardly cast a glance at the mother and father, two riders he knew better than any others. But who is the man? He wanted to slink into the room, blend into the shadows or into the rocky cracks of the cave home, but the crow whose body and memories he was still inhabiting did no more than bounce from foot to foot, and eye the breadcrumbs on the floor with hunger. Frustration bubbled up inside him until the young man stood, bringing his face into sight. As soon as he spotted the man's golden eyes, his black hair, and the scar under his jaw, hatred boiled inside of him. He tried to lash out at the man, wishing nothing more than to separate his head from his shoulders, but the four-winged crow's body did not respond. Instead, he poured all his hate into every curse he could think of. If he had been in his own body, he would have spit acid in the young man's face. Cyrus Vespucci. Thaddeus' dragon wasn't nearly as bitter as he. the rider of the Sunflash Dragon, the military commander, dining and playing with the child of the dragon prophecy. How intriguing. The deep drawl of Kyrell's thoughts calmed Thaddeus. Indeed. He resisted their sardonic laugh welling up inside him. Intriguing, yes, but it was nothing of special interest to him. He was tired of exploiting the meaningless memories of the degenerate, mindless creatures that subjugated themselves to him. He wanted more. He wanted Stefania's memories. Taking a deep breath, he released his hold on the crow's memory, and in only a moment the abyss of nothingness surrounded him. He sensed nothing to reach out onto, no memories, thoughts, or emotions. Holding back a curse, he concentrated on the words to go into Desajabe, the path between all realms, time, space, and matter, and focused on one memory, the only memory he shared with Stefania. The screams and battle cries of centaurs exploded around him. The smell of a damp forest flooded his senses, and he reeled, trying to grasp on to the familiarity of his own body, of his axe and magic. He could sense none of it. Instead, he felt only the flailing incompetence of a young child. Then, through the screaming, thrashing bodies and the splattering blood, all was still, and he found himself looking up into his own purple eyes through Stefania's. A sense of awe filled him as he sensed the young Stefania's fear and hatred turn into curiosity, as his own voice from those many, many years ago drifted down to her. "Do not worry, sweet child. I will never harm you. You have nothing to fear." A strange emotion welled up in him. He had nearly forgotten how he had felt when he held the young girl in his arms. Now, as her curiosity turned to trust, he felt it again. That boiling desire filled him, and he held onto the memory tighter. It was just a memory, but he longed to change its outcome. He knew what was coming next, and everything in him revolted against it. The memory of him looked up, rage pouring from every inch of him. "You are too late, Igentus. Stefania is mine." Fool! I was a fool. I should have taken her right then. Civ, he cursed inwardly, gritting his teeth. The memory played out just as he remembered it. Magic exploded, tearing through everything before darkness consumed it. All he felt was excruciating pain. But in that moment, in that space of time, when his hands had still clung to the young girl, defying all attempts of her being taken away, he felt a door open. It was small, like the door a mouse might use if it could. Without wasting another moment, he thrust himself back into his own memory and forced his magic through the door to block it open. Looking back, he spotted a crack of red shining through the door, and could feel the presence of the young girl on the other side. A ripple of victory surged through him. The door, he knew, was a rip between their consciousnesses, an opening between space, matter, beings, and time. It was like a sliver of a Desajabe between him and Stefania, a pathway of memories. Extending his hand, he tried reaching through the crack. A force pushed him back, but he persevered. Reaching further, he felt an orb touch his hand. Without thinking or hesitating, he grasped onto it and felt as his consciousness was once more raked into a nothingness. Again, he was in a child's body, Stefania's. The memory was tainted, broken somehow. Shadows and muted colors clouded the images instead of being crisp and clear. From her mind, no one was familiar, but from his own consciousness, he easily recognized a few of them: Artigal, Frondin, and Aaron. A younger centaur was there too, and another older one. However, he didn't recognize them, and so left them to drift away. A great congregation of centaurs stood before them, and vaguely he heard Artigal pronounce Stefania adopted into the centaur tribe. Then the memory shattered, and he was thrown back into the darkness once again. So she went with the centaurs. But why? Why didn't they immediately contact Cyrus or Dalton? "I don't know, Kyrell," he answered, "but with this connection, with these memories, I can find out." Again, he forced his hand through the door, but this time an explosion of immense pain coursed through his body, throwing him away from the door and out of that dark nothingness. Gasping, he opened his eyes and clutched his chest. It took him a moment to grasp his bearings. He was back in his throne room in the Eda stronghold. It was night, and the moon's light poured through the window behind him, casting eerie shadows around the dark granite hall. The stone throne beneath him dug into the sore spots in his back and legs. Cursing, he looked down at the wound on his chest. The white veins under his skin glowed brightly. The light burned his skin, his soul, his mind. The wound was nearly identical, he was sure, to the one his spies had seen on Artigal. "Curse the gods of Y-Riders and men, so this also prevents me from accessing the magic I need to travel across the very path it made. Or rather, the path Stefania made. I do not think that it was just Shushakumak, pure magic, that made such a path. For there to be room for creation, there must first be destruction. Then I shall try again and again and again until I regain control over my magic, find what is keeping her from me." He closed his eyes and whispered the spells under his breath, but a low growl interrupted him. "Thaddeus, do not be rash. You cannot try again so soon. You are not strong enough. Additionally, the borders grow weak. Our people need your leadership." Thaddeus gritted his teeth and dragged his eyes back open. Slow movement in the dark shadows behind the throne room's many pillars caught his eye, and he watched with pride as his soulmate moved into the moonlight. The glinting eyes of the acid dragon blinked slowly once, then twice, before his rumble shook the walls. You've been wandering the dream realm for over 4 days. There is more to conquering a world than what can be done inside the mind. Thaddeus laughed but winced as the movement brought throbbing pain to his chest. Perhaps, but you know as well as I do that between dragons and riders, we riders were made to control the mind, and you dragons, the body. Kyrell's tail slid across the floor as he dragged himself to his feet. Mayhap, but we are still a team. When you have made an appearance to the human domain and gathered more supplies for our own kingdom, then I will let you succumb to the mind once again. But you cannot now. Do not think I don't feel the pain your body gives you. Thaddeus' eyes darkened as he caught sight of the shadowy white wound on his dragon's chest, the ghost of his own. Pulling himself from his throne, his hand brushing over the annoyingly long stubble that had grown across his chin, he limped down the steps and over to the dragon. Staring into the swirling purple eyes of the great beast and feeling the immeasurable bond between them, he slid his hand down the length of Kyrell's jaw he could reach. A sly smile curved his lips. It is as if the gods finally graced us. We finally have what we need to find her, after 16 years of being captive to pain and failure. Now, if we can just find a way to heal ourselves from this pure magic, we won't have to bother with the drivel of humans and petty Eddas. It was hard to tell which was speaking, the dragon or the rider, since their minds were almost as one. Perhaps we will find that too through the door that just opened. Perhaps. And until then, we wait. Patiently, as if we have been for the last 800 years. What is another 100 years? Only mortals fear time. Thaddeus stared into the moons, wondering if across Ventronovia, Stefania was looking up into their light as well. I'm coming for you, Stefania, he hissed through his dark smile. He extended his hand to the moons as if reaching out to grab them and her. No matter where you are, I will find you. You are mine. And that is the super exciting prologue for Heir of Two Kingdoms. Thank you for listening to it. If you've come this far, I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope it opened up a whole lot of questions and exciting plot twists that maybe you weren't expecting or excited to delve into further. And with that, we have reached the end of today's cover reveal video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. And don't forget, Heir of Two Kingdoms releases March 20th, 2023, and pre-orders are open internationally right now. You can also get both of these gorgeous books off of dragonbonepublishing.com/shop. You can even get them in a bundle together. They come signed and personalized if you'd like, with some extra merch like bookmarks, art print, matte prints, and some character art and stickers. So definitely check those out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in Rasa, and may the sun smile upon your presence.